Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. It's the first Friday of March. Hope everybody's doing well and hope everybody's enjoying this beautiful weather. Kind of bringing our DEI talks back now. And we spent most of February not having them because we were doing, events every Friday honoring Black History Month and doing a lot of different, activities every Friday. Well, now that we're into March, March is Women's History Month. And so I'm hoping that throughout March we can do kind of some similar activities that we did last month in February. Here in a little bit, I'll be sending out some meeting requests to hold a couple times during lunch throughout this month, so we can do different activities for Women's History Month as we did last month. So, every president, I should say, since 1995 has issued a proclamation declaring March Women's History Month, usually with a statement about its importance. Every president has done it since Bill Clinton. And again, it's a very, very important month. And, every Women's History Month has a theme. Last year in 2020, the theme was Valiant Women of the Vote, according to the National Women's History Alliance. Since 2020 was an election year, it was in recognition of the centennial of the 19th Amendment, which honored women from the original suffrage movement, as well as the 20th and the 21st century women who've continued to ensure voting rights for all. So again, 2020 being a very important year, an election year, obviously the focus on women's voting rights itself. The theme this year for 2021 is called Valiant Women of the Vote, Refusing to be Silenced, and it will focus on women's political involvement and leadership. So again, you'll see a lot of the things in news and in other media about the importance of this month. A couple of interesting things about, women's history, about women's history in general in America. We were just talking about the 19th Amendment, which gave women the right to vote, but it was actually signed into law in August of 1920, but at the time, a number of other laws actually prohibited Native American women, Black women, Asian American women, and Latinx women from voting, among other groups. It wasn't until 4 years later that Native women born in the U.S. were granted citizenship, allowing them to vote. But even after that, Native women and other women of color were prevented from voting by state laws, which required things like poll taxes and literary tests. So it actually wasn't until 1965, 45 years after the passage of women's suffrage, when President Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act into law, that any discriminatory tactics such as literary tests were outlawed and all women could finally vote. So a couple other little interesting facts that I found, kind of looking into Women's History Month is, women outnumber men as they get older. So women age 85 and older outnumber men by about 2 to 1, according to census data from last year. So that's about 4.2 million women to 2.3 million women in the United States. My wife always jokes that she's going to outlive me, and I totally believe it. And again, that statistic definitely shows that, women tend to live longer lives than men do. Here in the U.S., more women earn college degrees than men. Women earn about 57% of bachelor's degrees, according to data from the National Center for Education Statistics. So again, more and more women are in college than men. They're earning much more degrees, more so than men. Women make up roughly 14.5% of active duty military members, and they actually make up about 18, almost 20% of the Reserve and Coast Guard. And again, 25, even 30 years ago, these numbers were cut in half. So over the last, 25 to 30 years, women have significantly joined the military, and even recently, as within less than 10 years, the U.S. government lifted its ban on women serving in combat positions. So women can now serve in combat positions. Women make up about 46.8% of the labor force. So about 57% of women age 16 and older work outside the home. And actually almost 50% of employed women in the U.S. said that they were their family's primary breadwinners. So again, women in the workforce is becoming, not just, a growing trend, but it's becoming the new norm. So I think, again, there's a million different statistics we could pull out about the importance of women in our culture. But I think these numbers really show that, that we really are moving towards a society where women play an increasingly not just more important role, but sometimes the dominant role in a lot of ways our government's made up, our military is made up, our educational system is made up. So again, I think it's really, really great that we have a month dedicated solely to understanding and appreciating and learning more about the great contributions that women have had, not just in our society, but in world history as well. So as I mentioned, just like last month, I hope March throughout March, you're going to be getting an email from me to save a couple of times where we can continue to talk about women's issues, continue to talk about, how the value that women play in our society, and most importantly, how we can continue to honor and celebrate these great achievements. So Again, I hope you'll be able to get out and enjoy this wonderful weather weekend we're gonna have. Watch some basketball, have some fun, and hopefully you'll join me here throughout the month as throughout the month on our Women's History Month. Thanks everyone. Have a great day, and we'll talk soon.